Welcome to A Bit of Insight with Lisa Mosbey, your weekly dose of health, wealth, and everything else. Small business owners are masters at juggling, but at some point, all the balls in the air turn into chaos. What if you could automate the busy work, streamline your processes, and still keep people at the heart of your business? Today, we're exploring how to move from overwhelm to order and what it takes to design systems that truly support your growth. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm Lisa Mosbey, the host of A Bit of Insight. Grab your coffee and let's get going. Today's show is called Overwhelm to Order, People First Systems. And that's with my guest, Sara Skowronski. I'm going to have her pronounce that again. Sara Skowronski. And Sara is a workflow and automation consultant she has a deep background in HR. She has more than 20 years in corporate America, in corporate experience, helping people and businesses run smoothly. She partners with founders and small teams to build systems that actually work, whether it's onboarding, payroll, prep, SOPs, or compliance. And don't worry if you don't have those. We'll talk about what all of those are in today's show. She blends smart technology with people first practices. And that's what we do here at A Bit of Insight. Her mission is to help business owners step out of the weeds and scale with confidence, clarity, and ease. Welcome, Sara. Please pronounce your last name for us because I did screw it up even though we practiced ahead of time. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Sara Skowronski.
Yes. And most of you guys know, I talk about this before, that I didn't have a lisp when I was a child, but I had a facial trauma. And so now I have a lisp because I had to have those front four teeth fixed. And I'm so self-conscious of it, but other people don't notice it. But I feel like I screw up names and things. And you know what? It still doesn't stop me from doing a podcast. So if there's
Oh, it
anything
should never
blocking you,
stop you.
yeah, anything in your way, you can overcome it. It's just who you are. So, be here and say it how you need to say it. But, Sara, is there anything, I did a quick intro. I mean, you have a
Yeah, you did a
tremendous
beautiful
amount.
intro.
Oh, good. You have so much experience. And I was looking at some of your LinkedIn posts and I I try not to go on social, but because on some socials, Facebook, it's doom scrolling. But I
Yeah.
love LinkedIn because you really get a sense of what people's passions are for their business and what
Mhm.
they're interested in. Like you had some amazing posts on your LinkedIn page that were really enlightening and you have this wealth of knowledge. But how did you get here? Right now you're a fractional CMO or a fractional HR. You stepped out on your own. How did you get here? 20 years in corporate America. What brought you here?
A very, very windy road. A very
Yeah,
windy road.
usually.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you're going way back. I actually got a degree in hotel management, which I used for like a second, and then I got into
Oh,
technology, and then I got into technology in hotels. Um, And I think after that, I moved into HR, and I really was passionate about. There was something about the law and the people and the systems and all of those things working together that really clicked for me. And I had the opportunity to work with smaller businesses, and one of them was a very small business. It was a staffing company that had it ranged from 10 to 20 internal employees and then a couple hundred temporary staff out. And I started there as their HR manager, but because I had this technical background, I was also their IT person. And then when the owners retired, I became the manager of everything except sales. And and we used to laugh because I was the manager of operations and HR. And I said, so basically I'm more, MOHR, I'm more.
love it. I see all
And
these
so
unique. I have a friend and she's the chief joy officer. We have chief
mhm,
visionary officers. There's all these great names that really
yeah,
more authentically explain what it is that people do and how they serve that business and how they show up in
Right?
that business. So I love that. You are more.
I am
But
more.
automation, yeah, yeah, the
Yeah,
automation
yeah,
part is the more that I'm most curious about, that I most
yes.
need, because I've been transitioning new technology for me since January with
I know there's so
rebranding.
so much new technology out there.
Yeah. So let's dip our toe in the AI automation
Yes,
pool and tell
yes,
us how you are as a and folks, if you're not familiar, a fractional human resource means that she has her own business and she goes into multiple businesses and helps them set up HR. I've
yes,
worked with a few fractional CMOs, which is their chief marketing officer, and I've worked with a fractional wellness officer and thought about being that for myself, where they go in and work with the wellness, and that's actually kind of a subsidiary of HR
yeah.
in a lot of big
A lot of times
corporations.
it
So
is. Yeah,
yeah, so she works in this diverse landscape with many different small businesses now, small to medium businesses, I'll say, is now your focus, where you were in big business and now you've kind of
yeah,
pulled it back. That's where your heart is. But
yeah,
what we, and me included, as a small business owner struggle with is automation. Like I am
yeah,
one person and I have an assistant and
yeah.
I can only do so much. And this is
I was right
my
there.
yeah, my what do they call it? Circle of genius is like getting to facilitate workshops and talk with people and do public speaking, not so much getting the administrative work done.
Yeah,
So HR, what you do is you step in and you automate some of these processes for people.
I
So that's what I want to
do. I
talk about. And
do.
then we have
Yeah,
AI automation. So there's automation
right,
and AI
right.
automation. Help us to understand how you can help the small to medium sized business owners. What should they be looking for? How do they know if they need you?
Um, well, I think everybody needs to automate something. Everybody needs to look at their process, I would say. And I think one of the big things is that I was you. I was, so 11 years ago, I stepped out on my own. I went into HR consulting. I decided I really wanted to focus on small businesses because of that staffing firm, because I had a passion for helping those really tiny, people that are getting ready to hire their first employees, or they're getting ready to grow, and so they want to set up their HR departments, their HR functionality. And so I started on my own, and about a year into that, somebody introduced me to Zapier, which is a no-code tool that will help one system talk to another that doesn't natively do that. And I was really enthralled by this. I was fascinated that you could do this. I got excited about it. My tech background, my little brain was like, what can we do with this? And I started automating as much as I could in my business, because it was just me, or it was me and an assistant, or me and one other person. And we were dealing with 15 different clients, all of their HR, all a little bit different, because we're a bespoke HR. So we don't go in and say you have to do it this way. We go in and say, how do you want it to look? What do you want your culture to look like? What is it that you're trying to achieve here with hiring people? And that can be really challenging to keep all of that information going. So I started using it, and building more and more, and getting to the place where I was automating my sales process, because I'm an HR person, I'm a tech person, I'm not a salesperson. And so making sure that I was following up with people, that I was getting proposals out, that I'm capturing those leads to begin with. And then along came AI 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and that just like blew the top off of everything. Because all of a sudden it wasn't just automating and putting things, it was actually being able to take the conversation that I had with a prospective lead, and pull out that information about what are their pain points, what do they want to accomplish, without having to sit and write it all down. I had a meeting note taker. I could pull those notes in. It could tell me, this is what you want to focus on. I could write the proposal. actually, I didn't write the proposal. AI would write the proposal and I would send it out and I could get it done in, 30 minutes, 40 minutes versus spending all day on it because that's not where my zone of genius is. So it would just take me a lot longer to do that. So yeah, so there's so many opportunities for people to use automation and AI within their business, regardless of what your business is. There's just a lot of ways to streamline processes.
So, can you step into a business like we'll use me for an example. Take a look at what I'm doing. You can look at my digital marketing, what program I'm using, and look and say, here, you can automate this, you can automate this, you can automate
Yeah.
this, and show us how we do those processes,
Yes.
what ones make sense, and then you actually develop or create that Zapier communication connection
Yes.
between what needs to be automated.
Yeah.
So here's the question then. So where do you find the biggest time wasters for small business owners that every one of us should really be automating?
Well, definitely any kind of pipeline, any kind of lead magnet, those things can all be automated. Um, I think a lot of times what I do is go in and I look at an audit of the person of the business and really look at what are their processes because there's definitely things, sales, you can automate tasks. That's another one that I automate all the time where whenever I have a meeting with somebody, it automatically will read those notes and put tasks into my task manager so that I don't have to worry about missing something. It's all right there for me. Uh, there's systems where then I can, go through and to prioritize those, I can click on a button and it pushes it into my calendar to say you're going to work on this during this time. So it's those kind of things that take some of the noisy thought out of it so you can actually focus on the things that will either make you money or complete your work for the client. But I do start with a workflow audit where I go through like what do you do? Like if you're very much into marketing and you're podcasting and you need to get out there, let's look at your workflow and then start to say, well, have you thought about tweaking this? And I would say 90% of the time it's automation, and sometimes it's just, do you really need to be doing that? Like, to explain to me what the function is of that? And part of that is the naivete of this isn't my business, so I just don't know. So I can go in and ask, like, why do you do this? And sometimes there's that aha moment of like, I don't know why we do this.
Yeah. What I love about that whole thing is having another pair of eyes on it and looking at it, because you're exactly right. I don't know what I need. I don't know what I don't need. And if I don't have it, I certainly don't know how to implement it because I don't have it. I haven't done it
Yeah.
before. And I think that, with AI, we've kind of gone off the deep end and we're using it in a lot of different ways. But what I like about it is the fact that it's a time saver. And we've already seen that
Yes.
AI can help you create PowerPoints. It can help you write books. It can help you, all these things that people are doing with it. It's a time saver. But you're talking about using it as a time saver in a completely different way. It doesn't necessarily need to use its intelligence. It needs to just, pardon my, GSD, get shit done, that
Right.
like
Yeah.
to get it done. Because I can get so caught up in those little details
Mhm.
that all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I haven't interviewed a podcast guest for this week and I'm a week behind. And there's people think, oh, you just show up and you interview them. But there's a lot of little
Yeah.
things that happen around a podcast and creating graphics and getting all of their information and their pictures and putting it all into the folder and then creating the podcast and putting the intro and the outro on there. And if you're going to do any editing and then marketing it, pushing it out social media, uploading it to the different services like Apple or Spotify, there's a lot of detail.
Yeah.
And all of those things can be organized into at least a checklist, if not
Mhm.
an automated flow. And that's
Yeah.
one process in
That's
all of
one
my
process.
business.
Yeah.
It's one
I-
process. And we talked about what is an SOP in the introduction. That is your standard of operating procedure, your SOP. How do you operate all of these little functions that your business is currently doing, that you're
Yeah.
currently actively taking part in? take back that time. Like it
Yeah.
cuts out, I don't, dare I say at least 50% of my time is no longer spent on that. It may be higher than that. Haven't actually analyzed it or calculated it, but automating that, we're taking back our time and nothing falls through the cracks. We don't
Yeah.
miss things.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of how you help people, or at least that's my experience.
Yeah.
So what does it really mean to put people first when building these systems?
Well, I think there's a fear that automation and AI is going to take jobs, take people away. And what I'm trying to do is allow people to really step into their zone of genius with so that they don't have to do the busy work. They're not, chasing down emails or chasing down information from a new client or putting things on a task list. They actually are spending their time doing the work, doing the bigger idea work um so that they can continue to grow professionally. Uh, let the machine do the easy stuff,
Yeah.
and allow the people to actually do the stuff that they want to do and that will help them grow.
Yeah. And how can onboarding set the tone for the company's culture?
Oh
Or
my God, so
maybe
much.
I may have jumped the gun. I may have jumped the gun. You mentioned company culture, so I want to go there
Yep.
first. I
Yep.
am, it's me, and I have a study assistant now, but she's my third one. So that people in the VA services oftentimes may get bigger, better offers, and so
Yeah.
there's high turnover. So I do
Mhm.
have to have some sort of onboarding with new people that come in.
Yeah.
And if I have all my systems automated, it's easier for them to plug in and know
Yeah.
them. So let's talk about company
Yeah.
culture,
Yep.
maybe as it applies to onboarding, or if they need to be separate, you lead the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there is, so it's interesting because from a fractional HR standpoint, there's okay, these are the things you need to do for onboarding. You need, depending on your state, there's certain things that people need to sign. There's certain everybody has to do an I-9 if they're an employee. There's, you want to make sure that people are signing confidentiality. But then there is the culture part. Then there is how does it feel? Is there simple things like, do they know how to log into their computer? Do they know how to, do they know who they're working with? Do they know what they're doing in their first week? Having something set up where you are introducing them to your company and your culture and your business without just like either word vomiting on them or like just saying or like handing them a book and being like, good luck, so I think it's really important to set up time to make sure that you are working with people, that you have those SOPs, so because nobody is going to remember things. Very few people. I'm sure there's somebody out there that would disagree with me that they're perfect, but nobody is going to remember things the first time you say them, especially when they're being just this fire hose of information is being thrown at them. So having things like SOPs and making and really pushing, this is where you can find this information. This is where you can do this. Having a constant check-ins, constant feedback kind of sessions so that there's a place where, especially as an entrepreneur, we are so busy. We are, we can have, we're dealing with our own company finances, we're dealing with our clients, we're dealing with sales, we're dealing with marketing, all within the span of like an hour and a half, right? So it's really difficult sometimes for employees to feel like they're aware that they're bothering you, but then you're not setting those expectations with them. So making sure you have a really strong onboarding, whether it's meeting with people, making and pulling automation back into this, is making sure you're scheduling, you have it automatically scheduled. Every week we're meeting at this time, or every day we're meeting at this time. Having an agenda, having a follow-up to things of like, hey, yesterday we talked about this. Are you, where are you with that? How is that going? Um, because as entrepreneurs, I can't remember everything. I'm like, wait, I asked you to do what? You did what? Why did you do that? Oh, I asked you to. Okay. So we really need to have some sort of way of tracking that information, of sharing the right information with our employees or our assistants or our workers, and following up on that information. And I think all of that creates that culture. And the other thing is really understanding what you expect of the other person. And that, kind of taking off the AI and automation hat and putting on the HR is, it's all about expectations. It's all about what you want the person to do, and never assuming that just because you know what you want them to do, that they know what to do. But being very clear on your expectations and how to do it and how you want it done, because that's honestly, that's one of the biggest problems I see with people, with business owners, is that they hire their first employee, and then they come to me and they say, this person isn't doing what I want them to do. And I'm like, well, have you told them what you want them to do? And they say, well, they have had this title before, they should know. And I'm like, nope, absolutely not.
No, it's your business. You need to know. And yeah, I love that because I always do it first. Before I brought in my first person,
Yeah.
I did all of the managing of the podcast and I did all the social media and I did all the graphics and I did all those things and I wrote them down, wrote them down, wrote them down. So I had a job description or an expectation and I still screwed it up. I still gave her too much
Oh,
information when the first gal, I gave her too much stuff when she started. So this person that's working for me now, we started with 4 things. It's like, I want you to automate. This is the system that I have, but I want you to automate these 4 things. And when we can do that for 1 or 2 weeks in a row, then we're going to add something and add something and add
right.
something rather than saying, here's one, like you said, word vomit, which is what I did the
Yes.
first time. Word vomit, all the things. Cause it's like, oh, I've been so overwhelmed myself. I mean, now I'm going to overwhelm this new person who's in my
Right.
culture. So I did it much better this time around. And I want to talk to you about the fractional piece of it. When let's identify fractional, whether it's fractional HR or fractional marketing agent, wellness agent. We talked about all the different. There's even fractional CEOs, fractional
Yeah.
CFOs.
Yeah.
This idea of fractional. There's so many more small businesses in the world today than ever before. And
Yes.
many of us came from a different culture. We may have come from corporate America. We may have come right out of
Right.
high school or college and started our businesses. So we don't know what we need. And
Mhm.
certainly most of us do not know we can't afford that straight out of the box. We're not funded. We don't have tons of capital. We're bootstrapping. But
Yeah.
there is places for these fractional executives to
Yeah.
help us.
Yeah.
So can you help us kind of process that? Like as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, where should I start? I mean, HR makes sense. You set up your culture first before you bring any people in. But wait a
Mhm.
minute, we need to get some certain structures in. Like I'm rebranding, so I'm
Structures.
getting a new CRM and new software, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of that structure that's coming
Yeah.
in. So is there some sort of an order? I won't hold you to this, but for those folks who are kind of in the midst of this, let's give them some
Yeah.
process. Take some notes, people, on what it could, how could they move through and use some of these things so that they launch their business with the greatest opportunity for success rather than struggling and flailing and being stuck in the weeds.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know that there's one right way to do it, because I think, again, it depends on your business,
I
but
won't hold you to it, but yeah, give us
there
kind of
are
a
so many different things. I mean, having somebody that you can trust financially, I think, is really important. If
okay.
you're truly bootstrapping it, like I started my business when I started the HR consulting, I had, whatever money I had in the bank, and I, put my nose down and went out and networked like crazy to try and get people. Um, but so with that, I think having, depending on where you don't feel comfortable, having a fractional sales manager or a sales director, having a fractional marketing person, looking for things that are revenue generating. So any of the things that are truly going to help you bring money in, those would be where I would say you want to really focus on first, to get those systems set up and to get a structure set up for that. Then, the next step is bringing that CFO or fractional finance person in, or some of the other operations people as you start to grow, and then bringing in and that includes HR and all of sort of the back end people that help you to help your business to stabilize and continue to grow. But you need to get the revenue in first. So I would say anything that's revenue generating, so marketing, sales, those type of roles, would be where you want to get to on the front end.
Just having a conversation with some of these folks, even if you can't afford them initially, if you're launching your business, it's like, what do I need to be preparing for? I don't want to get so far off track, and then
Yeah,
I'm not headed in a straight line. I don't want to do this
yeah.
zigzag. It takes a whole lot more energy. So there are resources like the Small Business Administration where they offer
Score,
different classes and things.
yeah.
Yep, SCORE will take you through some of these processes. So
Oracle
if
actually has some of those fractional CFOs and business advisors and those kind of things, and they're great. One of the other things that I find really helpful is joining a networking group. And so there's something, the international ones and the large ones are like BNI and Provisors. Um, and but then there's also some like I just joined a group called H7, and there's 1,500 people around the world that are part of this. And a lot of times what you get in those is you get, first of all, other entrepreneurs. And so a lot of times they're going through the same thing that you've gone through, and they may have a connection to somebody, they may know somebody, or there may be that chief sales, fractional sales officer, or fractional finance officer that you can just sit down and have a one-on-one and have a cup of coffee with and get to know them. And 99% of the time, they're willing to give you some free advice, of like, so that hey, I'm on the right path. I mean, that one of the first times I sat down and did a one-on-one from a networking meeting, literally walked out of an HR office, a corporate HR office, and here I was trying to sell my wares, and I had no idea what to do. And somebody who was a business coach said, if you meet with 5 people a week, you go out and you just meet as many people as you can, go to networking events, and then meet with 5 people a week one-on-one, you'll start to get that traction. One, you get better at kind of talking about what you do, and two, you get other people knowing what you do, and they start to bring more business in for you. So yeah, and
great
it worked.
place.
6 months
Those are great.
later, I got a random phone call that was like, "Hey, are you still doing that HR thing?" It's like, "Yes, I am."
11 years later. And it's not even just getting the free advice from them. It's
Yeah,
also if you're a coach or you're running into people to be of value to your client, you need to know the people that are doing the
yeah,
things,
yeah,
and you can send out those referrals to folks. And guess what? People always want to pay you back. If you're
yeah.
giving out and you're pouring into and you're being a resource for other people, they want to find a way to pay you back. If they don't
Exactly.
need your business, they may refer you because you'll be top of mind. So there's so many benefits to that. Um, Compliance came to mind. When you think about compliance, I think about compliance. I don't carry like a liability insurance, or when I was in sales and real estate sales and my past lives in business, I had errors and emissions insurance, some, slander liability insurance, different kinds of insurance. So compliance is a word that I think of with small businesses. Unless you're in the medical field, it's not in the forefront. Like in the medical field, we have HIPAA and we have some, there's regulations there, and those kind of come along with your licensing when you get the license to do what it is that you do. But for those of us who are might be in service industries or coaching businesses, how do we worry about compliance? Is that an issue? Because I see compliance a lot coming up.
Um, that is a web that you that is
Okay.
a very
Is there
tangled
a
web.
particular
So
blind spot?
if we look at it from the business standpoint, you were talking about insurances, and so there's definitely, again, you want to find a good insurance broker, a good business insurance broker who understands your business and understands what you need, because maybe you do need errors and omissions, but maybe you don't. Maybe you're not selling, something where your client could find fault in you. Um, General liability is all, I mean, it's not even very expensive, so it's always a good thing to have. But the HR side, all kinds of compliance, it's
Yeah.
like I said, one of the keys, one of the things that lit up was my legal brain that didn't want to go to law school but found law fascinating.
Yeah.
Having understanding what's required in your state. I'm based in California. I always thought that, knowing HR in California meant that I could pretty much do HR anywhere. And at the time that I started, it was true. Now, not so much. There's a lot of compliance and a lot of different nuances in each of the states. So it's really important to understand that. Um, I think from training and what is required, I think that the probably the overall one of the overall safest things to do is to make sure that you're protecting yourself in terms of confidentiality, invention protection, those type of things. So anybody that you're bringing on, whether it's a virtual assistant or a contractor or an employee, making sure that you are having them sign some sort of confidentiality agreement so that whatever they're learning, whatever they're doing for you, they're not taking that information and think that they can go somewhere else with that. So,
Yeah, that's the
because
big one that was kind of in my brain is like if you have intellectual property, you need to
mhm,
protect it. If you want people to have a non-compete, there must be something there. And then because I'm developing new website and transferring everything over to a new software, there's something on there called GDP. I think it's
GDPR, yeah,
GDPR,
the
yeah. And that's,
privacy, the,
you want to have that turned on your website because
yeah,
if you have international people that are visiting your website, it's required in other countries, even if it's not required here. And then also with
and it is
websites,
required
do
in
you
some
have,
states. It
and
is
some
like
states here,
California has
they have it
privacy,
now.
yeah.
Okay.
So
So you
so
want to
there
make
are,
sure you have that. And then alternative texts. We have people who have hearing or visual impaired, different needs. And so that was not on my radar. I was not compliant with my previous website. So I want to try to make some of those corrections going forward so that I can accommodate anybody that comes to that website and be in compliance with the ADA and different
yeah,
people
all the
that
all the
need
all the
services.
accessibility, yeah.
Accessibility. Thank you for the word.
Making
I was
sure.
like, oh, stumbling. Yeah, so that's what I meant when I meant compliance. It's like, how do we protect ourselves and also be a good steward, a good provider for what services that we're offering? So
Yeah.
definitely something to consider. Is an HR, a fractional HR person, someone that can look at that for us, or is there a different person that we would talk to about compliance? Does that fall under HR?
Under employment, yes. And
Okay.
I because I was more at that staffing company, I do understand a lot of those things. So I end up helping my clients and kind of pointing them of like, hey, do you know about this? Hey, have you. But when it comes to a website, in fact, I think my first web designer, I schooled him on the accessibility. I was like, we need an accessibility statement on here. It was like, what? So yeah, I think that you want to talk to your web designer, your web whoever your web person is. All of those different resources, they should be, and you should be asking those questions of, do they understand that? And I think a lot of people they go to for their business insurance, they'll go to their, not to demean anybody, but a State Farm agent or a somebody that you heard on a commercial, and it's important to ask them the questions because there could be a State Farm agent that knows exactly what you need and understands if you need directors and insurance and all the different things you need, but you want to make sure you're talking to somebody who can explain it to you in a way that you understand, because you don't want to suddenly find out that you didn't have insurance that you thought you did,
Yeah.
and um, and
Yeah. One
somebody
of
who knows and who's looking ahead of hey, we've got all this AI stuff. Do we need an AI policy? Do we need to write? What do we need to? Like, it's changing every day. You need to be like thinking 10 steps ahead. Um, to protect yourself in a lot of ways. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
I always did the
fun to talk
umbrella
to, but
policy.
yeah,
Yeah, the umbrella policy, because your home, your car, your that
yeah,
person can put an umbrella policy on. So if somebody got hurt on your property, and
yeah,
some of those umbrella policies will cover liable or some business mistakes if you're a home-based
yeah,
business. But it is very limited to what it will cover, and they don't necessarily do business insurance over and above that. So finding that person that really specializes in planning, I love that idea for
yeah,
business, your business needs in the future, and having a plan that you can grow into. I know Aflac has some plans for business owners, and there's probably many other companies out there that do that. So that's a consideration. Even when you
right,
first start, if you can't afford it, it's still worth having some of these conversations. Again, one, to get the information, two, to be a resource for other people because now you're in the know, and three, it goes in your business plan down the road. Like when we start to become profitable, we want to make sure that we have these things in place. Another one was
yeah,
a key man policy. I
right,
had two other business partners in a previous business, and if
yeah,
one of us passed away, then there was a life insurance policy that would help us to stay in business,
right,
to keep going. So we had this
yeah,
key man or woman life insurance policy on the three of us. The company paid for all three of us to have that. Fortunately, we're all still here today, so we didn't need to use it.
oh,
But again, if you have a family to think of going forward and you're self-employed, you don't have a company that's going to provide anything. You won't have any income coming from that if you're not former
yeah,
military and your spouse gets taken care of. Some places those things are in play, but as a straight
yeah,
up entrepreneur, I've never worked in any of those environments. I had to provide them for myself all these
yeah.
years.
Yeah, and I've done the same thing where I don't, I mean, I don't have a partner or anything, but I still have a life insurance that the beneficiary is the company, so that if something happens to me, there's money to kind of wind everything down and to so that they can come in. I don't think that the business would continue without me as being a one woman show, but I also don't want to leave, a hot mess
Clients
also.
hanging. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
so
Is there a right time for automation? We've kind of touched on this, so I want to start wrapping it up. Is there a right
yeah.
time for automating?
I think one of the things you said earlier is really good is to is to know what the process is. So if you're finding that you're doing the same thing over and over again, that's when you start automating. If you do it once and it doesn't happen again, then it probably doesn't need an automation. But if you find that every day you're going in and um, you're posting new things on LinkedIn or on Instagram, that can be automated. If you find that you're taking notes from a meeting and you're putting them in a task manager, that can be automated. Anything that you're doing repetitively, those are all things that can be automated. But you have to do them, you have to know them before you just automate them, because everybody's automations are going to be a little different.
Yeah. And you might need somebody to walk alongside you. You may not be able
Yeah,
to discover some of this stuff on your own because we've been doing it the way we've been doing it. And
yeah,
we do tend to get blind spots. They kind of
yeah.
come with the territory because you get so busy that you don't see your blind spots. Okay, here's my last one. And then if you have more to add, feel free. But my last one, if you could wave a magic wand over every small business owner who's listening to this information, what's
Yeah.
one thing you'd fix in their operations tomorrow? I'm sure you've seen some things that kind of show up. What's one thing that you would fix in their operations, or the first thing that you would fix in their operations? Any thoughts on that?
Oh my goodness, my brain is like all over the place because there's HR stuff and there's compliance stuff and there's automation stuff. But I think sticking with the automation, it would be, really, um, like having SOPs. I think that's the big.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
I think that you can't. The other thing is you can't automate things if you don't know exactly what's supposed to happen. And even when they do an automation, it's like, okay, what is it that I want to accomplish? What are the steps? And having a really good SOP, and that's something that I'm doing. And again, automate it. You can record yourself doing something, and AI will write it for you. And and it but you have to be looking at that, and you have to be doing it consistently because things are changing. I mean, every time you turn on your computer, something is updated and a system looks different. It's like, okay, that button isn't where I thought it was anymore. So having your SOPs in place would be very helpful.
And I think that if you want to bring, if at some point you ever want to bring somebody on board to help you to have a virtual
Yeah,
assistant, or you're hiring even a fractional, somebody coming in, for them to be able to just look through those standard of operating procedure, your
yeah,
procedures, your systems, if you will, folks,
yeah,
have them be able to look at those. And sometimes we just do it almost on autopilot and we don't know what
yeah,
we do. So taking
yeah,
the time to spend, say, this entire week, I'm going to write down everything that I do, the order that I do in how it starts and what the outcome is for all of those things. Then you're
yeah.
done. And you could take that raw data, that raw process, and stick it into an AI, one of the AI services, and say, here, clean this up for me, write it out, and then bam, we're starting our manual. We're starting our user's manual or onboarding
Again,
manual from that.
if you buy Loom, if you pay for Loom, which is probably $10 a month, it was like $120 for the year. It's a video recording of your screen and yourself and what you're as you're talking. It will actually, you can take that transcript and just dump it into AI and it will write your SOP for you. In
Beautiful.
fact, I think
Oh,
there's even a
that's
and I think you can do that with the free version actually. I don't think you need to do that, but I think now on the paid version there is a button where you push and you say, I want to create an SOP out of this. Got a good
getting
job.
easier and easier. Yeah, so many resources. And
There's
that's the
no excuse
benefit.
not to do it anymore.
Yes, okay. I think I just got my hand slapped. Oh,
Hey,
thank you so much.
sometimes you need to have focus. I just want one last thing on the SOPs is having a time where it's like, okay, I'm gonna make a list. I'm gonna make sure that I get these through. One of my friends, who's also an entrepreneur, she has a business. In June, she did like all of her and her employees all did their SOPs. They had to, that was their goal. And then the person who actually started me on SOPs, her name is Layla, and she has a company called Process Driven. She has September. So it's like you're supposed to be like doing a SOP every day in September to get all your
Oh,
SOPs done. So something around that where you kind of gamify it and make it like, okay, we're going to get this all done, then it's very helpful too.
yeah. And I have the Insight Circle, which is just a business community. People come, they get accountability, they get a little bit of confidence coaching, and they get challenges. And you know what?
Yeah.
There might be a September challenge for that group of people. Thanks for that. You put it on my radar. Sarah, this has been great. This was really helpful.
So
And,
fun.
personally, I was picking your brain kind of for me, but I hope everybody else had a takeaway from it as well. Was there a final thought that you wanted to leave folks with after sharing all this stuff? Is there something I forgot to ask you?
Um, No, you covered a lot, but yeah, I think it's just making sure you know what your processes are and having another set of eyes look at them because we get those blind spots. We do the same thing over and over and over again, and we don't recognize that there's a different way. So being open to change and having somebody maybe come in and take a look,
Beautiful. And automate them. There's always room for
automate
improvement
it.
and automate them. Those are
Yes.
my two takeaways. Automate them
Yeah.
and there's always room for improvement. Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much for showing us that systems don't feel cold and complicated. They can actually create space for people to thrive. And that's what this
Yes.
this conversation was all about. It's systems are important, but we also want to take care of our people. We want to create
Yeah.
that culture that makes life easier for them, allow them to enjoy their job, give them some freedom to develop their own SOPs, give them some freedom to have agency or authority over their job, the position that they're doing. You're going to create longevity. You're going to create loyalty with your staff by doing that. Invite them in. It doesn't, and it doesn't all have to fall on you as an entrepreneur and as the owner.
Did not.
When we invite people in, we don't know it all. And but we may know the people that know it all. So invite them in and let them be part of your process. For all you listening, think about this. What's one piece of chaos that you could simplify this week? That's your challenge. We always have one. Because when you shift from overwhelm to order, you open the door for more clarity, more freedom, and more of what matters most. And that's the people in your business and how you can serve them. And by all means, come on back next week, because again, I'm going to have an extraordinary guest, somebody who's been an entrepreneur for a long time. And we'd love to shed some light on your business through her experience. Hey, everybody, I'm Lisa Mosbey. Come on back. Bye. Thanks for joining me on A Bit of Insight. To get more involved with our wellness community, grab a copy of my book, Live Well, Travel Far, or to explore our travel offerings, visit the website at insightcenterforwellness.com. And if today's episode gave you something to think about, leave a review and please share it with a friend. This is Lisa Mosbey reminding you to live well, travel far, and always follow your insight.